As more and more location-independent businesses grow, one of the big things I hear about is, Andrew, I need to build my team. How do I build my location-independent team? How does that affect the rest of my Nomad Capitalist plan? I talk in our book, Nomad Capitalist, about being a frontier market entrepreneur. But even if you're selling to people in the United States or to Australia, to Canada, to Europe, even if your business relies on developed markets, you can still take advantage of building your location-independent team in the world's emerging markets. I'm going to tell you how. I'm Andrew Henderson. The first thing you're going to want to consider when you're putting together your location-independent team is, what is the tax risk of this team? So you don't have to be offshore. You don't have to take advantage of the legal tax reduction strategies we talk about to build a location-independent team. Plenty of companies in the United States, for example, hire workers in foreign countries. Nothing wrong with that. However, if you're planning on having an offshore tax strategy, building a location-independent team of people working in the United States is going to be a problem. That's going to give you what's called a tax nexus, whether it's the US, Australia, or a lot of other developed countries. So you're going to want to ask, how badly do I need people in those countries? And if you really need them, if it's a necessity, okay, how do I plan around that? How do I work that into a now more complicated offshore tax plan to where I've got different companies doing different things and my workers in the US or wherever work for one of these companies? Or how do I plan for me being offshore without those workers? Okay, so the first thing is, what's the tax risk? And again, that really only matters if you and your company plan on being offshore. It doesn't matter so much if you're just going to be living in a high tax country and you've got lots of taxes already being paid out. Okay. The second piece of advice is, don't follow the herd. This is something that I find very interesting in studying the whole concepts of nomadism and global hiring, global citizenship, is, we are creatures as human beings. We are creatures of society. We want to do what other people are doing. And so just as many people who are just starting out as nomadic people, they want to go and live in Thailand, many people who are starting out hiring will go to the Philippines. It's been talked about by a lot of people. Tim Ferriss talked about it in the 4-Hour Workweek. Lots of businesses have sprung up to offer services in the Philippines. India is another one. If you have more programming or call center work, I hear a lot of people going to India. I say don't follow the herd. Now, there are certain reasons. I talked to a guy the other day. He has 50 people working in India, and that seems to be a great solution for him. However, if you're just starting out and you heard a friend say, hey, hire in the Philippines, what I found is when I've met people who had people who were working for them in the Philippines, they'd be paying them, a relatively decent salary, and I'd say, are you happy with that person? They'd say, well, they're okay. And I'd say, well, let's go over here. Let's go to a different country and see, for the same price, I think we can probably hire 2 people. And I think they'll be more impressed with the quality. And every time I've done that, they've said, wow, I didn't realize just how average the person I had was working. And listen, I love the Philippines. But the challenge for a lot of people from, let's say, the United States is that the differences between a US and an Asian culture are often very different. In that in the United States, we want everyone to be kind of entrepreneurial. We want people to innovate. And in different cultures, it's like, well, no, we're waiting for your instructions. I think a lot of people get frustrated when they hire from cultures that are too different than theirs, that the people are great workers. They're very loyal. They're very devoted in many cases. They do a great job. But the cultural clash is perhaps too much. And so what I suggest, point number 3, is find a place where perhaps you can understand each other a bit more. Hire from the best places. And the best places aren't always the most ballyhooed places. I talk a lot about Eastern Europe. I think that there are some countries in Eastern Europe where you can actually hire very well. So for content creation, for example, Romania. For people who are doing customer support, including customer support on the phone, also Romania, because the accent there and the number of people who speak American English is actually surprisingly high. I remember going to Bucharest and really being impressed with the quality of people. Not so far away in Serbia, you have a lot of people who are graduating with degrees in English, English education, English writing, English language. These are people who have a pretty good handle on English. Now, they may need some training to get into the contextual stuff. If you're writing a blog, for example, and you want them to understand certain contextual things, that will require some training. But for just kind of pure writing, people in that part of the world do a pretty good job. For customer service work, for strategic work, for anything like that, I found Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, these are good places to hire. I've talked recently about Armenia being an up-and-coming place where wages are lower, and the government is really trying to get people hired. If you're looking for basic customer service, data entry, things like that, and you've been frustrated, as I have from past businesses, working with people in Bangladesh, for example, where it's just like, I don't really know what they're doing, we can't seem to talk, they seem like nice people, but I just don't know what's going on. I found Armenia to be really good because a lot of Armenians have exposure to places in the West. And so if you're looking for more basic work, including things like social media, I found Armenia to be very good. If you're looking for work to be done in Spanish, I found Venezuela to be excellent. Some really top quality people in Venezuela. I've also found Egypt to be very good, particularly for creative work, web design, graphic design. And I've made several Egyptian friends over the years, really nice people, and we really just get along. I mean, people think Egypt is this kind of far-flung African country, but really, I mean, Egyptians I found really great for doing creative work. The challenge being, if you're in Egypt, that sometimes the internet doesn't work, and that's probably why there's not more work there, because it's a really talented group of people. One thing that I would consider doing is I would be willing to train. I had a friend who owns a radio station, an AM radio station in the United States. This is a radio station I used to work with back in my days of being a market maker in the radio infomercial business. And these are not stations that are very popular. What he will often do is he'll hire people who get fired from the big popular stations, and these guys would come in with their egos, and they would say, well, when I was working at KFYI, we would do it this way. And he'd have to constantly fight the ego. I said, you know what you should do? I want you to go and hire people from the zoo, people who are working at the zoo cleaning at the monkey cage, and tell them they can work in the fast-paced, fun world of AM radio. And they'll be fascinated with the idea of running, the board at a radio station. They'll be so fascinated that they won't give you any of the grief. They'll work for the price that you are willing to offer, and you'll just have a lot less problem, because you'll be getting people who can be trained. If you have a job that you can train someone in a day, a week, even a month, and you can put together procedures to train future people as you continue to expand, to me, I'd be going to these countries, explaining some of the basics to people, telling them, okay, here's how I want my Facebook posts run, or here's how I want Instagram handled, or here's how to do YouTube, or here's how to answer customer service emails. I think that not only are the cost savings that you're going to achieve going to be a lot better than just going and hiring someone in the United States, not only the tax issue is going to be a lot better, but it's going to help get your business organized. And so to that point, one thing that I would recommend that you consider doing is insourcing. Right now, everyone talks about outsourcing. Let me hire a YouTube ads agency. Let me hire an ad agency for Google. Let me hire a company to do my SEO. Quite frankly, I think that the idea of what I found, at least, when I go overseas and I find quality people who want to work and I'm willing to pay them more than the local wage, is I can train those people to do things the way I want to do. I can maintain a greater sense of control. And by doing that, I not only reduce my cost substantially, but I'm keeping everything in-house, and I have people talking to each other in a way that outsourced companies necessarily probably wouldn't do. And so that's one thing. When you can hire people for a lot lower price, even if someone doesn't work out, you know that you didn't really sink a lot of money into that person compared to what you'd pay in your home country. The last thing that I would tell you to that point is don't assume that your location-independent team has to be distributed. There's this big movement now for having the distributed team where people work at their own home. You've got one person in Egypt, one person in Venezuela, one person in Kathmandu. Quite frankly, what I like to do is follow the model of a Ryanair or a Southwest Airlines and say, you know what? I'm going to have either one team in one place, or I'm going to have different teams that each do different things. I'll have the marketing team in this country, I'll have the customer service team in this country, but I'll have some volume to them. And the reason I say the Southwest Airlines or the Ryanair model is that once you know how to hire in a certain culture, you can replicate that time and time again. The Ryanair model is we just fly one kind of plane. We have one kind of pilot, we have one kind of mechanic, we have one kind of cleaning. We don't have to worry about, oh, is this the A320 or the 757? What do we need to do? You're just going to figure out, okay, here's how I hire in Romania. I understand how the people work. I understand what to expect. I understand all the local work conditions, and I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to adapt to one culture, and then I'm just going to go and deal with it, rather than saying, okay, in the Philippines, they expect to be paid for a 13th month in December. And over here, they want Ramadan off. And over here, they want this off. I say less distribution may be the way of the future. Get some people in an office, or at least get them in the same city so they can be collaborating and so that you can reduce the overhead and the knowledge curve of trying to figure out how to deal with people in 5 or 10 or 20 different countries. Those are some of the things that I've learned over the last 8 or 9 years of hiring overseas. I think if you give them a try, you might be surprised. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.